The text message from Mom arrived at 3:47 p.m. on Thursday afternoon while I was reviewing property acquisition documents in my downtown office. My phone buzzed with the harsh notification that would change everything about our family dynamic. Don't even think about showing up to my birthday party tomorrow. You're banned from my house. I won't have you embarrassing the family in front of our friends. Stay away. Mom. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling the familiar ache of rejection that had become my constant companion over the past 4 years. The birthday party in question was Mom's 58th celebration, a lavish affair she'd been planning for months to show off to her social circle in our upscale Phoenix neighborhood. Setting my phone aside, I returned to the stack of legal documents spread across my mahogany desk. The papers represented the final phase of a real estate acquisition that had taken 6 weeks to negotiate, the purchase of 2847 Camelback Ridge Drive, a stunning 6,200 square foot Mediterranean villa in the exclusive Arcadia district. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mom had just banned me from her house, the same house I'd purchased 3 weeks ago through Summit Properties, my real estate investment company. What she didn't know was that her ungrateful daughter had spent the last 4 years building a real estate empire that now included over 200 properties across Arizona, generating $47 million annually. To them, I was Maria Garcia, the family disappointment who'd walked away from a promising career in corporate law to pursue what they called property management nonsense. What they didn't understand was that their failed daughter had quietly assembled one of the largest real estate portfolios in the Southwest. The acquisition of Mom's house had been purely financial. The previous owner, who had been renting to my parents for 8 years, needed to liquidate assets quickly due to a messy divorce. I'd purchased the property for $1.2 million, well below market value, with plans to eventually renovate and flip it for a significant profit. I picked up my phone and typed back a simple response. That's interesting. Then I scrolled through my contacts and called Jennifer Walsh, my lead property manager and the person who handled all tenant communications for Summit Properties. Jennifer, this is Maria. I need you to prepare a tenant notification letter for 2847 Camelback Ridge Drive. Of course, Ms. Garcia. What type of notification? Inform the current tenants that the property has been sold and they're now renting from Summit Properties. Include the new lease terms and payment instructions. Should I mention that you're the new owner? Not yet. Just use the standard corporate language about ownership transfer. When should I deliver this? Tonight. After 11 p.m. After hanging up, I returned to my work, but my mind kept drifting to the family dynamics that had led to this moment. For 4 years, my family had treated me like a charity case. The daughter who'd lost her way after law school, who was wasting her Harvard education on real estate investments. They had no idea that their struggling property manager owned a portfolio worth over $86 million, including luxury condos in Scottsdale, commercial properties in downtown Phoenix, and vacation rentals throughout Sedona. The next evening, Mom's birthday party was in full swing when I drove past my house, and saw the driveway filled with Mercedes, BMWs, and Lexuses belonging to her carefully curated social circle. Through the windows, I could see guests mingling in the living room I now owned, celebrating in the kitchen where I'd installed new appliances last month. I parked across the street and watched for a few minutes, seeing my sister Carmen in her designer dress, my brother Miguel with his wife Elena, and various family friends who had no idea they were partying in a property owned by the woman they'd helped exclude from the celebration. My phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. Mom told us you're not coming. Probably for the best. Mr. Henderson is here and you know how you embarrass us in front of Dad's business associates. I typed back, enjoy the party. What Carmen didn't know was that Mr. Henderson, Robert Henderson, owner of Henderson Construction, had been trying to secure a contract with Summit Properties for months. He'd pitched his services to my acquisition team just last week, hoping to land renovation work on our expanding portfolio. At exactly 11:43 p.m., as the birthday party was winding down and guests were beginning to leave, Jennifer arrived at the house with the official notice. I watched from my car as she rang the doorbell and handed the envelope to Dad, who accepted it with the confused expression of someone receiving unexpected legal documents. Through the window, I could see the family gathering around as Dad opened the envelope and read the contents. Mom's face went from confusion to shock to something approaching panic as she processed the information. My phone rang immediately. Maria, what is this? Dad's voice was strained, filled with the kind of stress that came with unexpected financial complications. What is what, Dad? This letter saying we're now renting from Summit Properties. What happened to Mr. Johnson? I believe he sold the property. But why didn't anyone tell us? We've been renting this house for 8 years. We have rights. I'm sure Summit Properties will honor your existing lease terms. Maria, do you know anything about this company? We need to understand what's happening here. I paused for a moment, considering how much to reveal. I'm familiar with Summit Properties, yes. Can you help us understand the situation? This is very unsettling for your mother. I'll look into it, Dad. After hanging up, I drove home to my penthouse apartment, the one my family thought was a cramped rental, but was actually a 3,000 square foot space I owned in the most exclusive building in downtown Phoenix. The next morning brought a series of increasingly frantic phone calls from my family. Maria, we need your help, Carmen said during her 8 a.m. call. This Summit Properties company is demanding all kinds of new paperwork. They want updated financial information, employment verification, and a new security deposit. That's standard procedure for ownership transfers. But we've been model tenants for 8 years. Why should we have to prove ourselves to new owners? Because it's their property now, Carmen. They can set whatever requirements they want. Miguel called an hour later with more concerns. Maria, we looked up this Summit Properties online. They own hundreds of properties across Arizona. What if they decide to raise our rent or kick us out? They'd need legal justification for eviction. But what if they find some technicality? Mom is freaking out about potentially losing the house. I'm sure everything will work out fine. What Miguel didn't know was that I'd been reviewing the lease terms my parents had signed 8 years ago. The original agreement included several clauses that hadn't been properly updated, creating potential legal vulnerabilities that a less sympathetic landlord might exploit. By noon, Dad called with genuine desperation in his voice. Maria, we need you to use your property management contacts to help us. Can you reach out to Summit Properties on our behalf? What would you like me to say? Explain that we're a responsible family with stable income. Your mother works at the university, I have my consulting business, we've never missed a rent payment. Maybe they'll consider grandfathering us into better lease terms. The irony was overwhelming. Dad was asking me to vouch for their character to myself. I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Mija. We really appreciate this. That afternoon I called Jennifer to discuss the next phase of the plan. How are the new tenants responding to the ownership transfer? They seem very concerned about their lease security. They've submitted all the requested paperwork, but they're worried about potential rent increases or eviction. What's their current payment history? Perfect for 8 years. Never a late payment, no property damage, excellent tenants by any measure. And their current lease terms? Below market rate by about 30%. The previous owner hadn't raised rent in 3 years. I see. Schedule a meeting with the tenants for Monday morning. Tell them the new owner wants to discuss their long-term housing arrangement. Should I mention anything specific? Just that Summit Properties values good tenants and wants to ensure a smooth transition. Monday morning arrived with Mom calling me in tears. Maria, we have a meeting with the property management company in 2 hours. What if they decide we're not suitable tenants? What if they want us out? Mom, you've been excellent tenants for 8 years. I'm sure they'll recognize that. But you don't understand the stress this is causing. This house isn't just where we live, it's where we've built our life, where we entertain friends, where we've created memories. I understand, Mom. Do you? Because sometimes I feel like you don't care about family stability. The comment stung, but I kept my voice steady. I care about family, Mom. Then help us. Use whatever connections you have in property management to ensure we don't lose our home. 2 hours later, I arrived at the Summit Properties office downtown, wearing a professional business suit and carrying a leather portfolio filled with lease documents and property information. The conference room was elegant but understated, designed to project competence and reliability to potential clients. My parents arrived precisely on time, both dressed in their most formal attire and clearly nervous about the meeting that would determine their housing future. They were accompanied by Carmen, who had insisted on coming to provide moral support and legal perspective. Mr. and Mrs. Garcia, please come in, Jennifer greeted them professionally. I'm Jennifer Walsh, property manager for Summit Properties. Thank you for meeting with us today. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Dad replied, his business training helping him maintain composure despite obvious stress. I understand you have concerns about the ownership transfer and your lease terms. We do, Mom said, her voice slightly shaky. We've been excellent tenants for 8 years. We love this house and hope to continue renting it for years to come. I've reviewed your payment history and property care record, Jennifer said, consulting her files. You've indeed been exemplary tenants. So our lease will be renewed? Carmen asked hopefully. That decision ultimately rests with the property owner. Can we meet with the owner? Dad asked. We'd like to present our case directly. Actually, Jennifer said, glancing toward the conference room door, the owner requested to attend this meeting personally. I took that as my cue and entered the conference room, still carrying my leather portfolio. Good morning, I said professionally. Mom's face cycled through confusion, recognition, and then shock. Maria? What are you doing here? I'm here for the lease meeting. But why? How did you? Mr. and Mrs. Garcia, Jennifer said formally. Please meet Maria Garcia, owner and CEO of Summit Properties. The silence in the conference room was deafening. Dad's mouth fell open and Carmen grabbed the edge of the table for support. Maria owns this company? Mom whispered. I own Summit Properties, yes. Along with the property you've been renting. You own our house? Dad asked, his voice barely audible. I purchased it 3 weeks ago as part of an investment acquisition. Carmen found her voice first. You bought Mom and Dad's house? I bought an undervalued property in a desirable neighborhood. The fact that you're the tenants was coincidental. Coincidental. Mom's voice was rising. You bought our home and didn't tell us? You banned me from attending your birthday party in a house I own. That seemed like information you weren't interested in receiving. Dad leaned back in his chair, the full implications hitting him. The text message you sent. That's interesting. I was referring to the irony of being banned from my own property. This is unbelievable, Carmen muttered. What's unbelievable is that none of you ever asked about the actual scope of my real estate business. You saw property management and immediately assumed failure. But how did you afford to buy their house? Carmen asked. I opened my portfolio and spread out property listings and financial statements. Summit Properties owns 213 properties across Arizona. Current portfolio value is approximately $86 million. Mom stared at the documents in disbelief. 86 million? Real estate investment has been very good to me over the past 4 years. But we thought you were struggling, Dad said weakly. You thought I was struggling because I live modestly and drive an older car. What you didn't realize is that I reinvest every profit back into acquiring more properties. Jennifer spoke up. Ms. Garcia has built one of the most successful real estate portfolios in the Southwest. She's known throughout the industry for her strategic acquisitions and ethical tenant relations. So what happens now? Mom asked quietly. Now we discuss your lease terms. As your landlord, I have several options. Please don't evict us, Mom pleaded, tears beginning to form in her eyes. I'm not going to evict you, Mom. You've been excellent tenants. Then what? I pulled out a new lease agreement from my portfolio. I'm offering you a 5-year lease extension at current rates, with a guarantee that rent won't increase for the full term. Really? Dad asked hopefully. Really? Good tenants are valuable regardless of family relationships. But why would you do this for us? Carmen asked. After we've treated you so poorly? Because despite everything you're still my family. And because you genuinely are excellent tenants. Mom burst into tears. Maria, I'm so sorry. We completely misjudged everything about your life. You misjudged my business success, yes. Can you forgive us? There's nothing to forgive, Mom. But I hope this helps you understand that success comes in many forms. Dad stood up and walked around the table to embrace me. Mija, I'm so proud of what you've built. And so sorry we didn't see it. Thank you, Dad. Will you come to dinner this week? At the house. We have a lot to talk about. I smiled. I'd like that. Over the next hour, I explained the details of Summit Properties, the acquisition strategies, the tenant relations philosophy, the expansion plans for commercial properties and vacation rentals. My family listened with growing amazement and pride, finally understanding that their struggling daughter had built something remarkable while they weren't paying attention. The employment numbers alone, Carmen said, reviewing the company information, you've created jobs for over 100 people. Good jobs with benefits and advancement opportunities. I believe in taking care of the people who make our success possible. Maria, Mom said, I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. And so sorry about the birthday party. Thank you, Mom. Will you let us throw you a celebration? To make up for excluding you. I'd like that. That evening as we had dinner together at the house, my house, Dad raised his wine glass in a toast. To Maria, who built something beautiful while we were too blind to see it. We're sorry we missed the journey, but we're grateful to be part of celebrating the destination. As we sat around the dining room table I now owned, I realized something important. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving your family wrong about your failure. Sometimes it's proving them wrong about what success looks like. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they'll love you enough to celebrate your success rather than questioning how you achieved it.